So I feel a little bit like we have planned our joint birthday and no bastard showed up.
They're missing out. They're
They
missing out big time.
ain't getting any cake.
No,
They
they
do
ain't.
show up.
Absolutely.
Well, it's uncanny actually, because the topic of our conversation today is stress and
Yeah.
burnout, and starting to unpack that and have good quality conversations about that. And one could assume the fact that we've had no one show up is that they're stressed and burnt out.
And they're doing all the things and they shouldn't be doing. Yeah.
Or that they're so in the zone and they're so motivated and clear that they go, no, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm on task. I'm ready to go.
Okay. Place your bets.
Place your bets. Don't be a negative mole. Anywho, I was just saying to Kerry before we jumped on the recording that one, sometimes people show up a bit later. They've got other things that they've committed to as well. But I don't think I've had a topic this good where no one showed up to in, oh, I can't remember last time. But anywho, let's have some fun and unpack this topic together.
And it is a juicy topic. There's lots of aspects to it, so which is great.
There's lots of personal aspects to this as well for me.
Yep.
Um,
And
and
me.
yep, and Kerry and I love an overshare.
We do. Oh God.
You know what? I have cried during hosting sessions before. Now, call it unhinged, call it being real. I'm focusing on the latter, being
I
real.
think I think it's real. Yeah, 100% real. We've all been there.
Absolutely. So the topic is entrepreneurial burnout, and high levels of stress. And I think clarity is the first step. Clarity and awareness is always the first step to solving any problem. When you're clear and you're aware of what you're working with. And it's almost like that actually plays a big role in that loop that we get stuck in of stress and overwhelm and burnout, is that we are on that hamster wheel and we don't feel like we've got the ability to stop and reflect and have a look at, well, what are we working with here? What do I need to stop doing, start doing, do less of, do more of? And it keeps perpetuating. It keeps that hamster wheel running strong. Whereas I think today, for anyone that's watching this, you might feel like you're on that hamster wheel or you've been on it before, but next time you want to get off it faster and earlier. And I think these conversations bring that awareness. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I think today it'd be good to maybe even share some personal experiences. That'd be good.
Yeah.
And what triggered getting into stressful states or overwhelm and what we did to get out of it. But then I've got some notes on a PowerPoint as well that we can share and use as a guide for our conversation, of what causes stress and overwhelm and what are some really simple, practical elements that are helpful to get out of it. I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
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 And I think for me, there's two main triggers for me when I feel burnt out, or overwhelmed or really stressed. And I always say, and I've said this since I started in business because I've had financial issues all the way along in business, is that some of the worst stress I've ever experienced is financial stress.
100%.
And it's almost like, oh, have you had people die? And I'm like, yeah, this is up there. This is up there.
Yeah.
I think it feels yucky to say, but um, financial stress is fucking awful.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Um, it's traumatic. There's self-help hotlines for everything. What about financial pressure? It's horrible when you're like, it feels almost greedy or there's something wrong with it. But I think that has caused a lot of burnout, and then misalignment with team, not being on the same page as your people, for whatever reason, is really hard. I find that that puts me in a bit of a tailspin as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and probably just the good old fashioned creating a role that you hate in your business. You end up in a role that you think, who put me here? I hate this job, even though we have choice. So I think you sometimes don't feel like you have choice, don't you? Like,
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. When I had my burnout, um, breakdown, whatever you want to call it, it was financial, and it was, I didn't know I had to let go. So it was the financial burden of, paying $12,000 a month rent in my location that I was in at the time. I was in a shopping center,
shopping
open
center.
7 days a week. So I was working 7 days a week and then going home and doing all the things. And I wouldn't delegate anything to any of the team because I thought I was the only person that could do it myself. So not only was I worrying about the financial side of things, I was completely overloading myself with doing all the things which I didn't have time or brought me joy. And that's when the whole wheels fell off. It was just horrendous.
Let's
And it,
let me play the counselor J, psychologist J, psychiatrist J, Dr. J.
hmm,
Um, when you were overwhelmed and burnt out, did that make you want to hold on to things even more, make it
yeah,
worse? Yeah, because I'm
100%.
the same. As you're
Yeah,
like, um, oh, can I help you, Kerry? No, it's all
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. And I wasn't a talker. I wouldn't share how I was feeling. I wouldn't let anybody know that I needed help. It took a complete breakdown for me in front of my team in the middle of a team meeting for me to realize that I actually needed help. Hi, Trish. Um,
Hello.
Oh, we've got a friend. We were going to be lonely here today.
Ah,
She's, she's
sorry, I
got
was running a bit late. I got caught in traffic.
all good, all good. We're in the middle of a complete overshare, so welcome.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, sorry, as you were saying, yeah, it took until you got to the point in your salon where you had a bit of a mentee bee in front of your team. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I just completely broke down. It was just horrendous. And the team were like, what is going on? Because they just didn't have a clue.
Mm,
And it took that for me to, be honest to myself that I couldn't do it all and things definitely needed to change. And that was probably my, once I got better, I had obviously had to get help. Once I'd got better, it was my turning point and my aha moment to think, right, shit needs to change because it can't go back to how it was.
mm,
Um, yeah, it was, and it's awful. Like you say, you just want to hold on to it because you don't want to feel like a failure either. You don't want to ask, well, I didn't want to ask for help. And yeah, it was just awful, terrible.
absolutely. And I
Mm,
think that was the one thing that popped up for me is that when I was really stressed, I had the money stress, the team misalignment, like I was, yeah, my word that I used to always use is overwhelmed, which is probably what I more refer to than burnt out is overwhelm. Um, uh, it made me want to take on even more responsibility, like let me control everything, which was counterintuitive to think that I actually needed to shed some things.
yep,
But I also had this complete belief that no one could do it as good as me.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And I think probably for some things it was true because how I used to delegate would be like, can you do this, love? Thank you. That was about as much information as I'd give someone a task, and then they wouldn't do it to my standard, so I'd crack the shits and take it back. Yeah,
Yeah, true.
yeah, very true. But and I think I took that to an extreme, like I'd actually like when the receptionist was on her tea break because I got to answer the phone and I just did it better. Yeah, it's bad. I think it took until you hit rock bottom for you to go, I actually don't have a choice. Even if they do a shitter job than me, I've got to give it to them. And then you
Yeah.
give it to them and they do a better job than you. You need it jammed down your throat to what for me, I needed it jammed down my throat to go, actually, they can step up and they want to step up. You're stifling them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let me bring up some notes, or else we'll just end up uh just talking gibberish all day, hey?
Yeah.
This was the one liner that really changed things for me. You need to create a business that aligns with your personal values. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, that's meaty. What does it mean? You need to create a business that aligns with your personal values. So, like often when you quiz people and you talk about, well, what do you value? Oh, I love the small things, walking my dog, going out for coffee, getting out in the fresh air, and then you think, well, does your business support that or does it take away from that? Oh, no, it doesn't support that.
Mm.
Yeah. So, we know the things that we really treasure and that we love, but we're not a machine. We can't just plug that code in. We've got to actually put effort in to create an amazing life. It doesn't happen by default. It's, I don't know, what would you call it? Faulty wiring or a design flaw in the human
Mm.
condition.
I call it human, like what they call it, human design. So, how we operate is all the programming, all the things that have been in our peripheral or in front of us. And then we've been able to jumble that through and create our own version of that. And then you go, hang on a minute, where did I get that? Why am I doing it like that? And why do I always think that about this? And then until you actually break it apart into the chunks that you need to address, you go, okay, that does align with me. No, that doesn't align with me. Or that does align with me, or that doesn't align with me. But I think unless we're conscious about thinking of how we're operating, we just do it by default.
Mm,
Like what our external experiences have been.
mm. It's before you popped in, Kerry and I were just talking about how when you're in a state where you're really stressed, overwhelmed, burnt out, that we can't stop. It feels like you can't stop long enough to actually unpack this and think about, well,
Mm.
does this serve me? Am I
Mm.
happy with this? You snowball, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And when you go, well, do you like this? Or what changes do you need to make? And someone starts to question you. And I think that's probably a big part of it. For a lot of us, we can't regulate ourselves. We need someone to say, oi, what are you doing? Stop. Yeah. Take
Yeah,
someone
sure.
in. Yeah. Sam. Um, yeah, so that really resonated with me, is that sometimes we create a business that doesn't align with our personal values. And I also found this one little quote on the internet doing research for this, which I wanted to pop in here as well, is that um, entrepreneurs are more at risk of burnout because they tend to be extremely passionate about the work that they do, and they're more socially isolated, because you're a business owner, and a lot of people haven't developed that camaraderie or that team culture where they can feel safe to share. So they feel isolated and they're fiercely passionate about what it is that they do. So if something doesn't go according to plan, you really judge yourself. What's wrong
Mm.
with me? What am I doing wrong? And then limited safety nets. For me, that means financial, or who do I turn to? And we operate in a high level of uncertainty, which is particularly strong in the last few years. You think, oh, I wonder what this winter's going to bring in terms of sickness. Whereas before COVID, we were able to go, oh, yeah, there's always someone sick once a month. Whereas now it's like, I've got COVID, I'm out for the week. There is more uncertainty, or clients' buying patterns have changed, or whatever it may be. You
Mm.
know, the ads that you used to run have stopped working. People's needs are different.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's things like that. So the reason why I love business, and I'm extremely passionate about it, can also be a cause of stress. My need for uncertainty, which is creativity, the spice of life, solving problems, can also cause me to get stressed and overwhelmed too. Yeah, fascinating. So I created a bit of a list, which we'll run through, which what we see as common causes of burnout. And I think there's going to be different people watching this resonate with different things. So you might go, oh, not taking breaks. No, I take breaks. I've got really good boundaries with not working past 5 p.m. I always rest on the weekends, but then I work Monday to Saturday and it's really intense. Okay. So, but I think for some people, it's not even just about having your weekend. It's also having the boundaries in your mind where you can actually switch off. Marie can do that really well. Marie's really good at being able to get to the end of her week and then go, bang, weekend mode. Don't think about work. Yeah. It's like a switch that she can flick. Whereas some people, when you're working on something that's quite intense or going through a lot of change or disruption in your business, we're not taking the actual physical breaks, time away, weekends away, holidays, annual leave, or we mentally aren't taking time away. You know, it's like, do either of you guys do meditation?
Yeah.
Minimal.
Yeah. Okay. Because I think usually when you're going through a guided meditation, they say bring your focus to your top lip, or bring your focus to your breath, or bring your focus to what you can hear. And then as you get distracted, bring your focus back in, bring your focus back in, bring your focus back in. And I know that when I'm in a stress state, when I'm meditating, my focus drifts really fast and it goes to work and then back in. And then whoop, it's back out there again, whoop, back in. And I'm not drifting thinking about random things. I'm drifting thinking about money, you know, or projects that I haven't delivered on. You know, it consumes you. So I think it's boundaries with your actual time, but then teaching yourself almost that meditation technique of it's okay if I drift and I think about work, but gently remind myself, no, that's not going to serve you. You've got time for that on Monday. It's the weekend now. Yeah. Okay. And I wanted to include this one here, not sleeping well, as a part of the list because but look, it just makes sense, doesn't it? Like you get more sleep, you're more rested, blah, blah, blah. Like everyone knows that. It's like, you know, adding to this list, eating healthy. Everyone knows you need to eat healthy. Like, come on, give me a break. But I think the personal story that I can share around this is getting my son diagnosed with ADHD and going to a pediatrician and getting assessments done. And we started to explore medication for him so he can do better at school and regulate his emotions better. And the pediatrician said, let's just help him get more sleep. Sleep fixes everything. And I was like, whatever. All right. Waste our time for 3 months, then we'll put him on medication later. That's what I was thinking. So we give him melatonin, a low dose of melatonin at 7 p.m. And he starts to get tired. He's asleep in bed by 8 p.m. He gets solid, uninterrupted sleep. He used to get up a lot. He used to struggle to get into sleep and then he'd wake up a lot during the night. He doesn't need medication now. He doesn't need ADHD medication. He's able to regulate and just function better having solid sleep. Yeah. And in fact, we've halved his dose to the recommended dose now because I just think he's in a better rhythm. Yeah,
It's good.
more placebo effect. I think this kid has changed, completely changed. Like I used to get those emails, Otto's behavior, subject line, Otto's behavior, incident today at school. And oh fuck, another one. Who's he pissed off? Who's he sworn at? What did he refuse to do at school? I don't get them anymore, touch wood. I'll probably get one today. I do not get them anymore because he can regulate. Fascinating, isn't it? Um, who's guilty of this one? Taking on too many tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
think
call it because clients go, oh, when everyone says, oh, I'm just really busy, and I'm like, well, I just say I'm struggling keeping up with myself. It's like, so yeah, I'm struggling keeping up with myself. I'll get there, but I've just got so much going on.
it's like a form of self-sabotage, isn't it?
Right.
Put another thing on the list. Go on.
Yeah.
I dare you. But I think again, it's not that stopping and setting your day up, setting your week up, reflecting, what do I need to change? What can I do different? You know, for a lot of us, we haven't uh, gained that skill to consciously make decisions about how to change things. You know, taking on too many tasks, because I think you can start with good intentions with a to-do list, and every single one of those things on the to-do list snowballs into something bigger. You open up a can of worms, okay, and then you start to lose control. Yeah. You know, not having a healthy work-life balance, not sticking to your default diary, not having a team that's aligned, financial pressures cause burnout. On this other list, these are more big picture. You can't stand the thought of going to work because you've created a role that is not sustainable long term. It could be the volume of work, how much you're working, or it could be the type of tasks that you're actually doing. I think it's no secret that I struggle with my concentration. Whereas, and I was just trying to think before because I thought it's a really good example. Um, oh, uh, an award submission. So I've been writing an award submission for our business, and I reckon I concentrated like 3 hours on writing and creating that award submission because I loved it. It was creative and I loved it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to stop and think, well, I can do more of that type of stuff. How could I fill my week with more of that stuff that I absolutely love that I can get in the zone and work on for 3 hours compared to the doing the shit that I don't like doing. Okay. But I think it's like, if we were to unpack, because we're all business owners, oh, well, I want to outsource and delegate confrontation. Because sometimes you can go, no, you actually got to suck that up and you got to do that because it's the avoidance of the confrontation that's causing the problem. Like, do either of you actually like confrontation?
I do find it challenging, but
Yeah.
I guess I try to approach confrontation by like if I've got to instigate it, I always ask the question, like, basically, get ready to engage. We're going to we'll have a bit of a discussion about something. So I guess I ask the question, I prepare them that they need to have a hard conversation with me. But it's never enjoyable.
Yeah, the process, I suppose it's a good way to think about it then is the process isn't enjoyable, but the outcome is like when you overcome like a shitty situation or something you've been avoiding, like,
Yeah.
yeah, 100% you can overcome it. Yeah, but the actual conversation itself, yeah. Yeah. But I've met people that don't enjoy confrontation, but they're really connected with the fact that when you have it and you overcome it, the other side of it's really sweet.
And I think that I've got the girls, they understand that when we're in that position, A, I don't enjoy it, B, it's necessary, but C, once it's done, it's done. So there's no hanging on to it. There's no, oh, well, there's a little bit of a mark on your name for a while or whatever. But once it's done, it's done. Like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, we're adults here. It needs to be discussed. Let's move on.
100%. Yep, absolutely. What about this one? There's a controversial one.
I saw that. I was like, whoa.
Whoa! You can't stand the people you work with. Oh, I'm
I think
really fussy with this one. I'm really fussy with it. My rule of thumb is that if I wouldn't have you over for dinner, I won't have you in my team. Got to feel comfortable that if you came over for dinner, I'd actually want to spend time with you at dinner. Um,
Mm,
and I remember a coach of mine, he coached myself and Marie for 6 years. His name's David. He's awesome. He said to me that that mindset will limit you at points in business. He said you just got to be aware of that. He said because if you want to grow a really big company and a really large team, you've got to start hiring people for their ability and their skill, not because you like them.
mm.
He said, and that creates its own set of problems. And I'm okay with that. It just means that I'll hit a glass ceiling and I'll then choose to either change the way I think or stay the same. And um, I think at this stage, I'm actually happy to be limited by that. Um, I'm flexible enough to know, okay, well, if I did choose to get the business that big, I had to start hiring people on skill. Well, I'm happy to have the conversation, entertain the thought process, but I'm more leaning towards life's too short to surround yourself with people you can't stand. I don't know if I could be bothered.
Then it sort of opens up a new category of business that you probably
Yeah.
don't have to even worry about now. And it's like heavier management of people, personalities, and things like that in a HR perspective, where rather than your vibing people are go with the flow, I'll get the job done, cool, we're all cool. But there's other people that will probably be a bit more sticky
Mm,
and harder to manage.
mm,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I suppose that's where when you get to a certain size in business, that's why HR firms
Yeah.
exist, that you can actually outsource that part of your business because it's too hard basket.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, I actually don't know anyone that works in HR, but I'd love to quiz them and go, what were you thinking when you signed up for that job? Doesn't that sound like the worst job in the world?
First.
I'd get down a sewer pipe and scrape shit off the walls before I did HR. Like I would. Like sign me up. I honestly would. Oh my God. I'm sure, I suppose I've got an maybe a certain understanding of what HR would be as a role. It's not all of the you're sacking people and dealing with drama. There's other things too, I'm sure. Anyway.
Definitely
Uh,
all hard conversations.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yep, build a career out of it. I actually used to
Yeah.
have a client, her role in the police force was when there'd been an accident, um, she was one of the police officers that would go to the house. That was her
Mm.
main role, and then help put them in contact with counselors and deal with that first initial shock and trauma. And I'm like, why did you sign up for that? But again, she was really connected to the fact that you're helping someone when they're at the worst time in their life. And I thought I'd be screwed up in a little ball at the bottom of the shower at the end of every night if I did that job.
Mm.
My God. Anyway, um, yeah, feeling exhausted is another thing. You know, I use that example of if your Monday to Friday or whatever your working hours are, get you to the point where on a Saturday after work, you can't even be bothered doing anything with your spare time because you've got to recover from your week. It's not sustainable. I think like we're working on some pretty big projects at the moment, and I'm committed to getting the work done, but I can't work at this rate long term. I
Mm.
can I can do it if I've got an end game, but permanently, no, doesn't work. Yeah. Um, you can't remember why you started the business in the first place. Or you can remember, but you just feel so completely disconnected from it. I wanted to create a work environment that was different from where I came from. I wanted to be creative and choose my own hours. And you think, well, that all went out the window. Yeah. Okay, the reality kicked in. Um, this is how I felt before I sold my salon. I didn't feel connected to anything. There wasn't a future for me. And every future that I tried to create, I felt cold towards it. I was doing it just to tick a box. Oh, I want to be doing this much per week and I want to develop this and develop that. My heart was in my next business, not in my salon business. And then, I had to go through that mindset shift of, well, if I'm going to be coaching salon owners, but I feel really disconnected from my salon, how does that work? How does that overlap? In my mind, it didn't. Um, you smiled and nodded your head to that, Kerry. Um,
You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that I've already sworn in this session, but some of the words that I heard come out of Kerry's mouth when she was explaining where she was at, let's put it nicely, she was at the end of her salon ownership journey.
And because it went on for so long and I was not in control, every day got worse. And every day I got less and less connected, and everything just annoyed the absolute hell out of me.
Mm,
Um, because I couldn't see a definite end right until the end, it just made it a whole heap worse. It was just awful. Yeah.
mm. It gives you perspective, though. It gives you a perspective of when you're really connected and you absolutely love your business and you're in flow, but you've also been in the point where you go, this doesn't serve me anymore. I'm going to sell this business. It gives you a really broad spectrum of understanding where people's mindsets can be at. But also, then I can recognize in people when they contact me and they say, Jay, I'm at the end of my tether. I want to sell. I think, no, you're not. Yeah, because I know what that looks like. You're just in a shit mood. Um, but you can get a sense when people go, no, I'm ready for the next chapter. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think sometimes, and probably comes to this last point on the screen here, is job fit, passion, mindset, burnout. So, I know that I got my business to a point where I wasn't working in it much. And I was mainly just working on the tasks that I liked working on, but it still didn't feel like a good fit. It's like you can be in a personal relationship with someone and you're not fighting, you're not arguing. It's just the spark's gone. It's not a good fit anymore. You got to move on. Yeah. Okay. So job fit. There was one thing that came to me just before, and how was it pitched to me? If you saw your job advertised, your actual current role right now, with the stuff that you do, the pay that you take, if you saw that advertised, would you apply for it? And I remember that question being posed to me, and before the question had even been finished, being asked, I was like, no, no, no. Hmm. And it's funny because I know that I sold my business when the profit was the highest it had ever been. Yeah. But then you get that grub in your head of, what'd you do that for?
No, I
When,
didn't get that.
oh,
No, I
did
didn't.
you?
No, absolutely not. No, I grew it to where I needed it to be. And then obviously I got sick. So I was kind of, my hand was forced a little bit more. And I was like, right, time to do it because I can't do all the things. Yeah, it was the highest profit that it had ever been. And it was just like, just time to go.
Hmm. Whereas I know that, like, in the process of selling the business, and then after I sold the business, every now and then, I'd tap myself on the shoulder and go, "Did you make a mistake?" You know, and it's just your unconscious mind trying to guide you, making you question things. But you would have that sense of dread come over you and go, oh, am I? No, it was the right decision for me. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not permanent. You can go back and you can do it again if you wanted to. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Hmm. Um, I think one little story that really inspired me about change was a client that I used to look after. in the salon. She was a pocket rocket. She was about that big, tiny little thing. You could put her in your top breast pocket. And I asked her one day, what do you do for a living? She said, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. Wow. I said, I can't imagine you dislocating someone's hip or, sawing into a femur or something like that, because she was such a tiny little thing. And I said, oh, wow, that's amazing. Well done. And she said, I didn't always do that. I was a beauty therapist for 4 or 5 years. I said, really? How on earth did that work? And I remember her telling me the story. You know, those stories that really, they teach you a lesson or impact you. You remember them like they were yesterday. And she said, yep, I wanted to get out of year 11, didn't want to do year 12. And I thought, I'm going to go to beauty school, always passionate about makeup and styling and hair and making people feel good about themselves. And I thought, I'll go to beauty school. She said, I did that. She said, it wasn't that I didn't like beauty. She said, I also thought, well, I might want to be a surgeon. And she thought, bugger it, I'll just do part-time beauty. It can be flexible. Well, I did med school, did med school, 10 years of that. And then I gave up beauty after university, and now I'm orthopedic surgeon. Yeah.
Wow.
She said, but I loved it. Yeah. I'm like, wow, that's like, usually when you're a beauty therapist or a hairdresser, when you change, you become a product company rep or an educator, or you work at the TAFE. You don't go, I'm going to do surgery. Yeah. Fascinating, isn't it?
It's amazing. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah. She works in Bendigo, where I live, as an orthopedic surgeon. Yeah. Yeah. Little pocket rocket. Anyway. So I think the thing is, when you think about when you're in this state of mind and in this state of overwhelm, burnout, stress, whatever, the solution is actually relatively simple, but when you're in it, it does not feel that way. You really feel stuck, don't you? Feel trapped, I think. Again, you feel in that loop. But when I categorize it and go, well, what needs to be reestablished and committed to so that you can get back into a sustainable long-term rhythm? I think these 3 steps are time, team, and money, and time being your default diary. Looking at, okay, if your business isn't where it needs to be, what are you working on every week that's going to help change that? While you're in that process of change, what do your boundaries look like in terms of committing to self-care, sleep, exercise, time out, meditation, yoga, partying, doing whatever fills your cup? If you can establish a rhythm that's more helpful, that's what we need to do. Okay. The second part is team connection and alignment. And I'm still learning. We're certainly not perfect. I think sometimes you can go, I deliberately hold information back from my team because I don't want to stress them or I don't want to look weak. I'm really stressed, I'm really overwhelmed, I'm cooked, my brain's on fire, whatever. As a leader, you don't want to share with your team that I'm really flat this week, or I'm not feeling it this week, because you don't want to come across weak. But again, it's counterintuitive, because if you've got a good team and you say, I'm struggling, they'll rally around you. Okay. Or if they're really not aligned, they'll take advantage of you. And that's what needed to happen. They need to take advantage of you for you to learn they're not a good fit and they need to go. Okay. Because that's sometimes the outcome. We need to remove people from our lives. Yeah. So it's leaning in and having those conversations, isn't it? Yeah. Money. And it comes back to those 2 things, influence and time. Okay. So if you're financially stressed, what do we need to work on? What do we need to change in order to influence better outcomes? And how much time do we actually spend on that? If you were to look at 168 hours in the week and count how many of those hours did you commit to money making, both instant cash injections, band-aid fixes, but also the long-term fixes too. You might go, oh, 1 hour out of 168. And we'll go, well, if that's your biggest stress, we need to invest more time and effort into that, don't we? Yeah, probably. So it's almost like, okay, um, when you're not in a good place, using this little slide here of time, team, and money, default diary boundaries, time out, connection alignment, influence and time when it comes to money, use that as a bit of a filter to run your life through and go, well, what needs to change? Yeah. Makes sense. So I think that anyone watching this, and I think it's a good exercise to do, later on in the day or schedule it for this week. But think about if you could create your life by design and design your ultimate week when it comes to work, your ultimate Monday to Friday or Monday to Sunday, whatever it is, what would it look like? Okay. Sometimes we feel really cemented that, oh, it won't look like that for another couple of years. And you think, no, you just change this, change that. Like there's a lovely client that Kerry and I are supporting at the moment, and we're working on her time and her having a balance of working on the floor and on her business and downtime with family. And she's really struggling to think that her time and her week could look different. And I think from where Kerry and I sit, we think it ain't that hard, love. But when you're in it, she would feel really paralyzed by the fact this is the way it needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And
she
it
can't
doesn't.
see for the trees, can she, at the moment?
100%. Yeah. And we won't give up.
Yeah, I having had the business 16 years, definitely that first 10, 12, it was like I was there every minute that the salon was open, unless I was on holidays. So I would do all the hours, all the late nights. I had it in my mind that if I was the hardest worker in the room, that would be how I would lead by example.
Yep.
And that their 38 hours is is like a snapshot of my week on the floor. But then I still then had to do my admin as well. And I couldn't see how it could look different. And it wasn't until I started the product company that I went, I need one extra day a week to be able to do fluid admin and do number 4 stuff. I just don't have enough hours to cover both bases. And that's when I was able to drop down to 3 days a week, but I was well staffed and I would delegated to like a 2IC role. But now we're short staffed. I don't have number 4 anymore, or I've drastically reduced it. But now I'm feeling like I'm getting back to that stage. Like I'm definitely keeping Mondays to me, like to do everything. But Tuesday to Friday is like solid.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think it's gonna, I don't know. I guess I've got to be, it's that mindset of adaptation and going, okay, well, this is what it looks like right now. And then I've been in a place where I've had less days on the floor, and I've been in the place where I've had more days on the floor. So as long as I don't stay set, I guess, and always working to improve that balance.
Absolutely. And I know that, like, if you're in a position because you feel like, okay, it's temporary and it's where I have to be because of the constraints of how many team I have, you really have to focus on playing hard on the weekend, don't you? And really just doing exactly what you want to do for your weekends and saying no to things. And yeah, like I know for me that I think, oh, one thing that is really helpful for me to switch off, it helps me switch off in 15 minutes, is having a drink. But then the next morning, I feel anxious and horrific. So you've got
Yeah.
to go, okay, I actually, where I'm at right now, I can't afford to drink alcohol. It doesn't
Yeah.
serve me. It's an instant hit that the next day I regret all day. So you really got to focus on yourself when you're in a temporary position that you don't want to be in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. So let's have a look here. So I think those questions that you do need alone time. You need alone time today, this week, next week, whenever it is, to think about what are your needs and your wants for the next year? What needs to change? What do you need to do different? I always use that simple framework of what do you need to start doing? What do you need to stop doing? What do you need to do more of? What do you need to do less of? And there's some really practical elements to that, but sometimes there's even mindset shifts like I need to stop doubting myself. I need to stop procrastinating. I need to start prepping my day so it's more organized. Okay. So there's some practical stuff, but there's also some things that need to happen to make you think differently as well. Oh. And then again, coming back to the really practical side is what are some specific actions you can take to improve your stress connection to your ideal life? Okay, so it's like one of my friends owns a yoga studio. They do yoga and Pilates and fitness and meditation, all that stuff. And um, we were talking about a few weeks ago that she had a few members say, I'm quitting, can't do my meditation or yoga or my Pilates anymore. And she said it's wild because some of the clients are coming like 4 or 5 sessions a week and then they're grinding right back down to nothing.
Wow.
And she's stopped thinking, oh, it must be us. Oh, what did I do to upset them? She said like their values, their needs have changed. But she said going from 5 a week to nothing is quite extreme. She said, wouldn't they just cancel their membership and then do one casual class a week? Whereas she said there's so many people that are all completely all or nothing. It's like eating like crap, and then you go to eating just one stick of celery a day and going to gym 7 times a day. You think, whoa, too much the other way. It's quite extreme. It's like if you have to cover for a team member for 2 days because they're sick, you go, this week's a write-off. I go, no, it's not. You can't get everything done on your list now, but get 2 things done instead of 10. Yeah. So, what are some specific actions you can take to improve your stress connection to your ideal life? And maybe it's just that decision that when something gets flung my way, I won't let it hijack my entire week. Okay? I'm not going to be less reactionary. Yeah. Could be something like that. All right. Any parting words of wisdom, ladies?
Um, I feel like for me, because I'm always been the one to be, I've got that procrastination and the focus, and I've worked hard to be able to sit down and start feeling like I'm actually making traction with my admin and my organization, and just for me, I feel like I um am getting a bit better at it and excited with that. So now I'm starting to pull other things apart and put them back together. And I'm giving myself probably more work, but I think pulling things apart and doing them again, in this new mindset is really positive, because it's like I go, okay, what does that container look like? I need to look at that and I need to pull it apart, put it back together. Is it just idle? Is it just doing the same thing it's been doing for the last 5 years and I haven't touched it because I've been too busy and unfocused? And so just go back to that, redo it. So even like redoing our FPOS machine and redoing I haven't looked at that for like, I don't know how long, and the rates and the things that are associated with it, and the other things that are better out there than, no fees and all this stuff. So yeah, and I know that I can sort of get that task on hand um and complete it without it sitting on my to-do list for, another 12 months.
It's like I'm
So
cleaning out the cupboards or going through your wardrobe. But do I really wear this? Do I really need this lid that has got a missing container? Like, no, it doesn't serve me anymore. Move on.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been really good. So, and I think that it took a while because if I don't have a clean and tidy house, it makes me feel stressed. So I
Mm.
like the washing done, I like the floors clean, I like the house done. And I feel like I've turned the page where I now can put that into my business. And if there isn't clean and tidy, if it isn't organized about that, I think that's where my stress is coming from.
Yeah, right.
So all those containers that I didn't feel like I have a proper understanding or feel in control of, that now that I'm getting through them, I feel less stressed.
Mm. Yep, absolutely. It's interesting. I don't care about mess. When I'm
Yeah.
stressed, I just think, no, that can wait. Whereas I know that my partner really values that. If the house isn't in order, he's rattled. So it's, yeah, interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can go to bed with a messy house. Whereas I think some people you toss and turn.
I mean, I can go to bed with a messy house, but I do know that it needs to get sorted pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a pig.
I think for me, it was more about, when I was gone through my time, it was knowing that I had to talk to the team and I had to find out what their superpowers were to be able to delegate the shit that didn't bring me joy, that I needed to pass over to them to be able to allow me to have time to do the things that did bring me joy. And that was my biggest sort of like, yeah, that's what I need to do.
Mm.
And it was, and the team just stepped up big time, and they could do so much of the things that were on my list way better than I was doing.
Mm. Mm.
So it's just letting
Interesting.
go, isn't it? And we know that our businesses are our babies, but sometimes you just gotta let it go and say, yeah,
Yeah.
you can do that.
You got to put the baby in the cupboard.
Yep.
Sometimes, don't you? Get rid of the baby. Get away from the baby for a bit.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. I think it's lunchtime.
Yeah,
Sure
sounds
is.
good.
I think
Thank
so.
you.
All right. My pleasure. Lovely chatting. Thanks for your
Yes,
time.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Will
thank
do. Do
you.
my best. See you
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye.
Bye.